Weeks from Election Day, one of the two candidates for president is currently awaiting sentencing on 34 felony criminal convictions. Now, you might recall Donald Trump paid adult film actress Stomy Daniel, you see there, $130,000 to sign a non-disclosure agreement 11 days before the 2016 election. So voters would not hear her story of having an adulterous affair with Trump shortly after his third wife, Melania, gave birth to their son. When Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, exposed that Trump laundered the payments through his business to disguise them, Trump was criminally prosecuted for fraud. 34 felony charges, 34 convictions. Now, the former president is due to be sentenced in late November after the election. And now, just days away from the 2024 election, Rachel Maddow has brand new reporting that Donald Trump has once again been trying to make a deal to keep Stomy Daniels quiet. Rachel Maddow is here with me tonight with a special report. Rachel.
Chris, yeah, I'm as bewildered by this as you are. Thank you for the chance to break this story here. I don't know why I am surprised that this is happening. I will admit to being a little bit bewildered by it, as well as a little bit shocked by it, even though none of us should be shocked by anything. But let me lay it out for you. So, as you mentioned, and as we all know, Trump was convicted earlier this year, 34 felonies, after he paid Stomy Daniels to be quiet. He paid her 11 days before the 2016 election to not talk about her, what she described as her unpleasant experience having sex with him. He paid her so voters would not know about that when they went to vote in 2016. Well, now we have just learned, we have reported out, 20 days, here it is, 20 days before this election, we can report that he is once again trying to pay Stomy Daniels to be quiet ahead of this next election. Here's how we came to it. After Stomy Daniels testified in Trump's criminal trial earlier this year, where Trump was convicted, you might remember she came and did kind of a blockbuster interview here on MSNBC. And in anticipation of that interview, expecting that it might have a big impact, Ms. Daniels set up a GoFundMe to try to crowdfund some of the hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees that she still owed to Trump at the end of the multiple legal cases she had ended up in with him, including, you might remember, an ill-fated defamation case that was filed by her now imprisoned lawyer. Anyway, big mess. She owed him hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that GoFundMe actually did raise enough money for her to pay it off, which is a very big deal for her. That's a life-changing thing. So she's got the money to pay him off. She does owe him the money. Her lawyers start having a back and forth with Trump's lawyers about finalizing the exact amount of the payment. And there is a little arithmetic and negotiation that has to happen there. For example, there's interest that accrues on the original amount. So the two sides have to work out how long it's been accruing interest and what the exact amount down to the penny will need to be paid depending on which exact day you pay. I mean, it's normal for there to be some back and forth about that. It's normal for there to be some disagreement. Trump's side at one point was demanding around $652,000. Stomy Daniels' side was saying they thought it should be closer to $600,000. So they had to work all this out. At this point, Stomy Daniels is looking forward to having it all over and done with, bringing the whole saga with her and Trump to a close. When it comes time for Stomy Daniels' lawyer to call her and give her the final amount, she decides to film the call. Because this is a big moment in her life, right? She's expecting to hear from her lawyer on this call, you know, Stomy, here's the amount, we've agreed, we're sending the wire tomorrow, and then congratulations, Stomy, it is done, you're officially done, Donald Trump is out of your life. She is expecting this to be a cinematic moment, a big deal in her life, and so she decides to film it. Phone rings, she puts it on speakerphone, and she films it. But what her lawyer is calling to tell her is not what she's expecting. Watch.
What we're going to say in the future. That's no way. No, I can't let you do that. So he's like, okay, I got to get back with him, you know. So they want to cut some kind of deal where they silence you.
Don't they know that won't work?
It's not going to happen. Okay, it's not going to happen.
We had to bleep a little swearing there. But what her lawyer tells her is they want to cut some sort of deal where they silence you. In the midst of this negotiation over paying off the last legal settlement between them, Trump is trying to get another hush money deal with Stomy Daniels ahead of this election. Trump's lawyer basically offered to take it off the bottom line. They would pretend that Stormy Daniels owed less money to Trump than they actually believed she owed if she also signed an agreement to not talk about Trump. You know, when he paid her $130,000 in hush money before the 2016 election, that turned into 34 felony convictions for Trump because a jury found that he illegally laundered those payments through his business to cover it up. This time, they were apparently planning to launder the new hush money payment to Stormy Daniels through the payment of a legal judgment. Now, we know that because of this call. We also know because Ms. Daniels' lawyer has provided us the documents that show how it happened, and I can show you those in print. In this email we obtained from Stormy Daniels' attorney, we've redacted the street addresses and email addresses and phone numbers. Those are our redactions, but this is otherwise exactly what was sent. And I'll read it directly. Dear Clark and Allison, who are Stormy Daniels' lawyers, we disagree that a payment of $620,000 would be in full satisfaction of the three judgments. However, quote, we can agree to settle these matters for $620,000, provided that your client agrees in writing to make no public or private statements related to any alleged past interactions with President Trump or defamatory or disparaging statements about him, his business, and or any affiliates, or his suitability as a candidate for president. So we'll take less than we believe she owes, more than $30,000 less than we were previously demanding, if Stormy Daniels signs an agreement right now to not talk about Trump, to not talk about having sex with him before, which is what we paid her for before, and to not say anything bad about him now running for president. Stormy's lawyer repeatedly said no to her signing any kind of NDA. You saw her natural reaction in the moment saying, no way. So he said no to any kind of NDA. And then look at this, Chris. He gets this email from Trump's lawyer. Quote, I just spoke to my client, that would be Donald Trump, and co-counsel. Case can be settled for $635,000. No mention of an NDA. So the way this goes is, hey, we think she owes $650,000. Okay, we'll take $620,000 if she also signs an NDA. No to the NDA? Okay, fine, I've spoken to Trump. Then it's going to be $635,000. Stormy's attorney tells us they finally settled on $627,500, which is what Stormy paid, and she never signed anything. Now, I will tell you, we sent questions about all of this to Trump's Florida attorney who was handling these negotiations. He did not reply. He forwarded our email to the Trump campaign. They gave us a response instead. Their response was quite unexpected. They told us, oh, these documents are part of the Iranian hacking. Quote, these purported documents were attained as part of an illegal foreign hacking attack against President Trump and his team. We are working with authorities to determine the legal repercussions for those likely committing federal offenses by posting and utilizing stolen material by terror regime adversaries. Ms. Daniels has been held to account by having to pay President Trump over and above the money she owes to him as a result of her wrongdoings. Now, parts of that statement are factually and sort of legally inexplicable, but that is what they told us. We went back to them again saying thanks, but asking them about the hush money demand specifically, they just reiterated that statement. As I said, we got these communications straight from Stormy Daniels' lawyer after speaking with Stormy Daniels herself. There was no hacking involved. We did not get them from any hack or from the leaking of any hacked documents. There was a breach of the Trump campaign recently. Last month, the Justice Department indicted 3 Iranians for hacking into the Trump campaign back in May, stealing emails and documents and then trying to shop them to the media and to the Biden campaign. Some emails between Trump's lawyers and Stormy's lawyers from these negotiations did just recently turn up online in a report on Substack. Stormy Daniels and her lawyer both told us they know nothing about that. But we didn't get them from any Iranian hacking operation or any leak of any Iranian hacked materials. And so putting the Iranian hacking diversion to the side and their threats about it and stuff, the bottom line here is the Republican nominee for president, Donald Trump, is currently awaiting sentencing for crimes involving a secret hush money payment he made to porn star Stormy Daniels just before the 2016 election to keep her from talking about him and specifically about having sex with him. And now, just before the 2024 election, Trump has once again demanded that Stormy Daniel sign on to an agreement not to talk about him, offering to knock thousands of dollars off her bill if she did it. And, you know, maybe this time Trump has learned his lesson about not laundering this through his business, but he really is basically trying to do the same thing again. I should also tell you, Chris, just one last point. We did contact the New York District Attorney's Office about this. That's the office that prosecuted Trump on the initial hush money case. And they had no comment for us on this matter.
I'm processing a lot here. So first of all, Stormy Daniels paid Trump what she owed. She did not sign, in the end, any kind of agreement to keep silent. So just on that part,
yes.
is that it's done? She's in the clear?
Yes, she did not sign any NDA, and her lawyer and she both made clear to us she never would. But there may be another piece of this, which is that since Ms. Daniels refused to sign this new NDA for Trump, she tells us that she believes her social media and online presence has been sort of mysteriously torpedoed. In other words, she feels that after she refused to sign his agreement to keep quiet, she was effectively quieted anyway online with what she feels is some kind of artificial throttling or false reporting of posts and mentions about her. I can tell you that at least one club promoting one of her recent stand-up comedy shows has expressed similar concerns. And we are looking into it now using a lot of different tactics and techniques, talking to a lot of different sources. We may have more reporting on that part of it in days ahead, Chris.
There's a few things that are fascinating to me. And one of them is, it just seems like the horse is out of the barn here. Like, is it just, I mean, he's like the Terminator of NDAs, I guess. He just like really wants NDAs all the time, all over the place. But like, we do know all know the story. And what I think my main takeaway from this is, for whatever people say about this story, oh, it's priced in, people know that he's a philanderer, blah, 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 they certainly act as if it is harmful to him politically, both in 2016 and now.
What else does Donald Trump pay for out of his own pocket? Thousands of dollars. I mean, with all the information that we have about the contractors that he's stiffed and the small businesses that he's stiffed, his campaign still has hundreds of thousands of dollars in unpaid bills for small towns hosting Trump campaign rallies, right? I mean, he doesn't pay for anything, but he has repeatedly shown himself willing to dig into his own pocket to pay a significant amount of money specifically to stop Stormy Daniels from talking. In advance of elections, he is willing to dig in and pay when he will not pay for anything else. And this means that it's important to him. And I don't know exactly why it's important to him. He continues to deny that they had any sort of sexual relationship. I think that the veracity of her testimony in his criminal case on these matters sort of speaks for itself along those lines in terms of who you're going to believe. But he is apparently still in 2024 right now willing to pay money to keep her from talking about him. And that is a very unusual thing. And I shouldn't be shocked, but I am.
The Iranian hacking thing, I had to chuckle at because it's just so brazen. It had nothing to do, like, you got it from the lawyers. You all know that. There's that's it's nonsense. But it's striking too for two things. One is that unlike 2016, that hacked material has basically not been anywhere. It's only been posted by a few different reporters and independent outlets. It hasn't gotten big write-ups in mainstream outlets like Hillary Clinton's hacked emails did in 2016 and John Podesta famously. And two, the idea that they can kind of use that as a sort of coverall for any uncomfortable question, which I haven't seen them do before, but it's like, of course they're doing that. But that's a new one, I think. I don't think I've seen that move yet.
I mean, listen, if a foreign adversary is hacking documents from a campaign and leaking them to try to influence the U.S. election, that's really bad. And the Justice Department has brought a criminal indictment for that. One of the things that's bad about it, I mean, not foreign election interference is a bad thing, and no American should take part in it. And if you have any interaction with foreign influence operations trying to influence our election, you should report them to the FBI. Like, we know all of this stuff. One of the reasons it's particularly bad and insidious, though, is that if there are hacked documents by a foreign adversary that's trying to mess with the American public, they can put fake stuff in there, right?
Right.
And leak fake stuff and then try to shove that in our case.
Yeah.
In this case, we didn't get this from the hack. No. And these documents are real. And so even for the Trump campaign to avoid commenting on the content of these documents, which are real documents that have been confirmed for us by one of the parties in this communication, by Stormy Daniels' lawyers, they can't avoid the question of whether or not, they should answer to the content here just by pointing at, some other use that was made of these things by a foreign adversary.
The other thing this made me think of was the timeline of this case and the intervention of Chief Justice John Roberts and the majority of conservative justices he put together, and Juan Merchan, who's the New York trial judge who has this case in his custody, who decided to delay sentencing till after, partly because of issues, essentially kind of booby traps, sort of placed into the case by the Supreme Court, and just like the political ramifications of this, which is that he should be sentenced. He should have been sentenced, should be sentenced in the run-up to this election. It is a reminder of the fact that the man is convicted of these felonies, that he got up to all this stuff, that he has all the outstanding cases, and the degree to which the Supreme Court did very effectively, clear a path for him legally and politically down the stretch of this campaign.
Other people, the New York Times did an analysis fairly recently, actually, on this, looking at other people who have been convicted of the kinds of felonies for which Trump was convicted in this case, looking at similar circumstances. And what they found was, of all the available punishments to the court, when people come to be sentenced for crimes like this, the punishment that is most often meted out by the court is prison. And so if he's not given special treatment, following the statistical, the statistical niceties of this, he might not end up being sentenced to prison, but more likely than not, he will, if you look at past cases. And that, I think, is something that I think a lot of us have really been in denial about. I don't know whether or not Judge Merchan's decision was a good decision or not to delay it until after the election, but it does, I think, acutely loom over Donald Trump. And I think that he knows that if he's not elected president, that prison is a very real possibility. And if he is elected president, it's not at all. And, you wonder about some of the ways that he calculates what's worth doing in this campaign. What's going to be worth doing in the immediate post-election, immediate aftermath of Election Day in terms of fighting for a result that he wants? And, what wouldn't he be willing to do to stay out of jail?
Yeah, that is a really important point. The man's 78 years old. He's looking at, again, if he loses, he's looking at sentencing in this case, which, as the New York Times suggests, a sort of plausible and fair sentence would be jail, and other cases which have been paused, which are being litigated in many ways. And he's 70. Remember that he announced he was going to run for president as a shield against criminal prosecution in the first place. And now here we are on the doorstep of the actual election.
While he is once again trying to arrange another illicit hush money payment to Stormy Daniels in the immediate lead up to the election. While he is awaiting sentencing for the first time he did it.